Welcome to the Branch Group Safety Orientation. This orientation is required for all new workers before beginning work on a project and will cover many aspects of employee safety. Please remember that no training can anticipate all possible hazards, so each worker must be responsible for proper planning, constant awareness, and a concern for their coworkers. Hopefully, by now, you have become familiar with the core values of the Branch Group. Relationships sustained by mutual benefit and respect, being committed to exceptional performance, and demonstrating ownership in everything that we do. In addition to these three core values, there's a safety value that we call Branch Safe. Branch Safe means that leaders promote and support safety excellence. Branch Safe means that we are all accountable for safety, no exceptions, everyone. Branch Safe means that we will provide employee safety education through innovative training. And last, but certainly not least, Branch Safe means we consider all incidents to be preventable. Yes, I said all, every incident is preventable. These four principles of leadership, accountability, education, and prevention are vital to your safety and non-negotiable.
All Branch Group companies and projects must comply with the drug and alcohol abuse policy. In summary, the use, possession, having a detectable presence in one's system, distribution or sale of such substances is prohibited. This includes any prescription or over-the-counter drug unless the individual possesses a prescription from the physician and the company has expressly approved their possession and use of this prescription medication on the job. The company reserves the right to conduct the appropriate drug and/or alcohol screens, including pre-employment, post-accident incident near miss, for cause or suspicion, random. The company may also conduct searches of the person or personal property of any employee or subcontractor. Any company employee who violates this policy will be subject to appropriate disciplinary action up to and including termination, and employees of other companies and subcontractors who do not comply will not be permitted to remain on the job or perform further services for the company.
Safety is the responsibility of each employee and subcontractor of the Branch Group Incorporated. In addition, you are responsible for helping to create a safe work environment for yourself, your coworkers, subcontractors, and the general public. You will be provided with the information, training, tools, and equipment to do your job safely. While your schedule will be made and communicated to you by your supervisor, you will be fit for duty and report to work on time every scheduled day. The company expects you to be adequately dressed in clothing suitable for your job. This includes leather work boots, safety toe boots on some projects, full trousers, and a shirt covering your full torso with at least a 4-inch sleeve. You will not be allowed to work if you are not properly dressed. In the event of an emergency that affects your ability to report to work, you must notify your supervisor prior to the start of the shift. Unexcused or excessive absences are grounds for disciplinary action. You are responsible for the proper care and custody of all personal protective equipment, PPE, issued to you. Running is dangerous, causes incidents, and has no place on a construction project. It will not be tolerated. Horseplay or practical jokes can also be dangerous. The job site is no place for this behavior. Potable water will be provided at all work sites. First aid kits must be provided at each job site, and all supervisors should be certified in first aid and CPR. All injuries and near misses must be reported immediately, regardless of how minor.
Prior to starting work, you and your supervisor are responsible for performing a hazard analysis. A hazard analysis is a loss control procedure that identifies hazards or potential hazards associated with each work activity on the job and develops solutions that will minimize such hazards. A hazard analysis should be performed whenever work activities or job site conditions change. Each employee is responsible for ensuring his or her safety as well as creating a safe work environment for others. Report all unsafe conditions to your supervisor immediately. If you are uncertain of required safety procedures or if a condition is hazardous, stop work, move to a safe area, and seek guidance from your supervisor. Use your training and good sense to prevent incidents.
Incident reporting is a key component of the company's safety program. No matter how minor you believe an injury or incident may be, it must be immediately reported to your supervisor. Cleanup of blood and other bodily fluids must be performed by a person trained in bloodborne pathogens procedures with the approval of the safety department.
Most of us think we have a general understanding of what a confined space is, but there are some confined spaces that may fool us. Confined spaces pose a serious threat to our health and safety, as they are often prevalent in our industry. For this reason, it is imperative that these spaces be controlled so unauthorized entry does not occur. So, what is a confined space? By definition, a confined space is any space that meets the following 3 criteria. It is large enough for a person to enter and work. It is not meant for continuous human occupancy, and it has a limited means of entry or egress. Examples of a confined space include, but are not limited to, any trench deeper than 4 feet, ventilation or exhaust ducts or air handler, sewers, manholes, pipelines, storage tanks, bins, boilers, underground utilities, and vaults. Do not enter a confined space until you have verified that a hazardous atmosphere does not and cannot be created. If the potential for a hazardous atmosphere exists, the space contains materials that could trap you, grain for example, or if the space is designed in a way that it tapers to a small area where you may be entrapped, like a silo, the following guidelines must be used when entering the space. The safety department must be notified. You must be properly trained in confined space entry, and a trained attendant must be present. Atmospheric testing must be conducted for oxygen level, flammability, and toxic material. An appropriate retrieval device must be present. The confined space must be flushed or emptied of all dangerous substances to the extent feasible, and in case of a hazardous atmosphere, continuous ventilation must be provided. A confined space entry permit must be issued. The confined space permit can be found in the Safety Policies and Procedures Manual. Prior to entering a permit-required confined space, the general contractor must be notified. Trench and excavation cave-ins account for numerous fatalities and serious injuries every year in the construction industry. For this reason, many serious considerations must be made during trenching or excavating activities. Excavation permits must be properly obtained and underground utilities located before beginning any equipment excavation. Hand dig within 2 feet of any markings. A competent person must be involved at all times in trenching operations and inspections. The competent person must be trained in the OSHA standards and must be approved by the company. Excavations must be sloped to a 2-to-1 angle or be shored, for example, with a trench box, when the excavation is more than 5 feet in depth. Shoring shall be checked by a competent person daily or more frequently in extreme weather. Excavation walls must be inspected by a competent person after rain and snowstorms or after thawing and freezing. Be aware of cave-in possibility and moisture in the trench. Spoil dirt must be placed at least 2 feet from the edge of the excavation. Excavations must be barricaded at all times. Ladders or other safe means of access, no more than 25 feet apart, must be provided on excavations trenches over 4 feet in depth. When the potential for a hazardous atmosphere exists, trenches over 4 feet in depth must have regular air quality checks for oxygen excess or deficiency and gaseous conditions.
You have probably heard someone say that a clean job is a safe job. Since we agree, good housekeeping practices must be followed to keep work areas and passageways free from debris. Debris should be cleaned up and properly disposed of, as it is created in approved trash containers only. Scrap lumber and form lumber with protruding nails must be properly cleared to prevent the possibility of puncture wounds. Combustible materials and other rubbish shall not be allowed to accumulate, but shall be stored in areas or receptacles designed for such materials. These areas or containers must be properly identified. Stairways, aisles, exits, walkways, and storage areas shall be kept free of debris and other obstructions. Materials and supplies shall be stored in an orderly manner to prevent falling, rolling, or spreading, and to prevent tripping and stumbling hazards. Floors and platforms will be kept free of oil, grease, and other slippery material. Keep your area clean.
Try to imagine what it would be like to live in a world with no electricity. It would be like living in the Dark Ages. No lights, no microwaves, no computers, no television. While electricity is one of the greatest tools ever harvested by man, each year thousands of people are injured or killed due to the hazards of electricity. Visually inspect all power cords before use for cuts, abrasions, missing plugs. All electrical panels must be labeled and remain locked at all times. All tools, cords, welding leads must be free of damage. No tape repairs on cords. All ground prongs must be intact. Keep all cords out of wet areas and place along wall lines wherever possible. All power cords used on temporary power must be plugged into a ground fault circuit interrupter, GFCI. This includes the use of generators. In cases other than temporary power, GFCIs should be used whenever possible. For work on live parts that are not de-energized, suitable safe work practices for the conditions under which the work is to be performed must be used and strictly enforced. All 5,000 watt and greater portable generators, regardless of voltage, must have ground fault protection.
Electrocution, cuts, abrasions, embedded particles, burns, the list of possible injuries from handheld power tools is long. The following steps will keep you safe before, during, and after using any power or handheld tool. Visually inspect all hand and power tools for damage or defect before use. Electric power operated tools shall be double insulated or grounded. Extension cords used with portable electric tools and appliances must be the 3-wire type, which includes a ground. Do not attempt to bypass or remove a manufacturer's installed safety devices, including guards or shields. Be sure the switch is off before plugging a tool cord into an electrical outlet. Be sure that a power tool is off and motion stop before setting tool down. Keep moving parts of power tools pointed away from your body. Do not operate electrical tools while standing on damp or wet surfaces. Keep your hands dry. Disconnect your tool from power sources before changing drill bits or blades or when adjusting or repairing tools. Never leave a running tool unattended. All hand and power tools, whether furnished by the company or the employee, must remain in a safe, top-notch working condition. Keep tools and accessories clean, sharp, and correctly oiled. Do not grease, oil, clean, or adjust tools while in motion. Use the proper tool for every job. Keep impact tools such as wedges and chisels free of mushroom heads. Do not operate tools beyond the rated limits or try to increase their capacity with bypasses, cheaters, or other modification. Do not leave tools lying around where they could cause a person to trip or stumble. Store tools with sharp edges so they will not cause injury or damage. Do not carry them in your pocket. Wrenches shall not be used when the jaws are sprung or worn to the point that slippage occurs. Wooden handles of tools shall be kept free of splinters and cracks and shall be kept tight in the tool. The use of electrical cords for hoisting or lowering tools or other materials is not permitted. All handheld power drills, fastener drivers, grinders with wheels greater than 2 inches in diameter, Disc sanders, belt sanders, reciprocating saws, saber saws, and similar operating power tools shall be equipped with a momentary contact off-on control and may have a lock-on control provided that the turn-off can be accomplished by a single motion of the same finger or fingers that turn it on. All other handheld power tools such as circular saws, chainsaws, and percussion tools with positive accessory holding means shall be equipped with a constant pressure switch that will shut off power when the pressure is released. Pneumatic power tools shall be secured to the hose or whip by some positive means to prevent the tool from becoming accidentally disconnected. Each section of supply hose to the pneumatic tool shall be secured by some positive means to prevent accidental disconnections. Only approved and certified individuals are permitted to use powder-actuated tools. Contact your supervisor or the safety department with questions.
While construction equipment is vital to the successful completion of this project, in the wrong hands it can be deadly. Never operate equipment unless you have been trained and authorized to do so. Do not grease, oil, clean, or adjust machinery or equipment while in motion. Each piece of equipment must have an operational backup alarm. Seatbelts must be worn at all times while operating equipment. Hands and feet must remain inside the cab of equipment at all times. Use the 3-point contact rule when entering and exiting equipment. Equipment must be inspected daily, with any deficiencies reported to your supervisor immediately.
Back injuries are the leading cause of workplace incidents. As a result, the following safety practices will be used whenever manually lifting any objects or items on the job or in the office. Check for obstacles and choose a clear path before lifting. Increase balance by keeping feet shoulder width apart, placing one foot slightly forward before lifting. Get down close to the load, bending knees. Keep back straight. Lift gradually, making a smooth motion with the legs, not the back. Don't jerk. Keep load close to the body at waist height. Don't twist, turn with feet, not twisting the back. Ask for help on heavier and/or bulkier objects.
Smoking is allowed only in designated areas. Smoking is never allowed inside offices or office trailers. Never smoke around flammable or combustible substances.
Safe fire prevention practices will be observed on all projects. This includes the observance of smoking and non-smoking areas, the proper storage of combustible and flammable materials, and good housekeeping and compliance with the National Electrical Code and other applicable codes. Know the location of fire extinguishers and the proper use of those fire extinguishers. Welding and burning operations must have the adequate fire extinguishers at all times. A hot work permit must be issued prior to the performance spark or heat producing activities in a hot work area. Flammable and combustible liquids shall be stored in approved containers that are clearly and properly marked and dispensed in compliance with the appropriate rules and regulations. Leaks or spillage shall be cleaned up immediately and shall be disposed of safely and properly. No smoking, matches, or open flames are permitted within a minimum of 50 feet unless conditions warrant a greater clearance. Storage and handling of compressed gas cylinders. All cylinders must have their contents clearly marked on the outside of each cylinder. Cylinders must be placed in a secure and upright position at all times and capped at all times except during use. All leaking or defective cylinders must be immediately removed from service, tagged as inoperable, and placed in an open space away from the work area. Cylinders must be inspected prior to use. Oxygen must not be stored within 20 feet of combustible or flammable materials without a fire-resistant partition at least 5 feet high separating the oxygen from the materials.
Uncontrolled electrical, mechanical, hydraulic, pneumatic, chemical, or other energy source connected to or containing residual or stored energy is considered hazardous. To control hazardous energy sources, the company maintains a lockout-tagout program. Examples of activities in which a lockout program is required include lubrication, cleaning or unjamming machinery, making equipment adjustments and/or tool changes, constructing, installing, or setting up equipment, servicing pressurized systems. Look for any signs stating danger, do not use. This piece of equipment has been de-energized and locked out for a reason, so don't try to use or operate it for any reason. Only trained, qualified, competent, and designated persons can work on locked or tagged out equipment.
Signs, signals, and barricades will always be provided to warn others for construction hazards such as excavations, electrical panels, overhead cranes, and other construction hazards. They are placed on the project for a purpose. Obey them. Excavation openings and work surfaces and other fall hazards must be marked and protected with the appropriate warning devices or hole covers. When a hole or floor, roof, wall opening is created while working, a cover, barricade, or watch person must be utilized. You must barricade any areas around or beneath your work areas necessary to protect other workers from accidental exposure to potential hazards that may include sparks, slag, chemical spills, falling objects, or other overhead objects. Traffic flag persons will be certified according to the appropriate state flagger certification program. A person must be certified before flagging traffic. Standards and guidelines of the current Work Area Protection Manual shall be used when setting, reviewing, and removing traffic controls.
The Virginia Overhead High Voltage Line Safety Act and Branch Group Safety Policy require each of us to use certain precautions when working around overhead power lines. Operating equipment within 10 feet of overhead high voltage lines is prohibited. Employees working within 10 feet of high voltage lines is prohibited. The power company must be notified before work is to begin in these areas so that they can make proper safety arrangements. Warning signs visible from 12 feet and measuring 5 inches by 7 inches must be placed on equipment. These signs must state warning, unlawful to operate equipment within 10 feet of overhead high voltage lines.
The company has a written hazard communication program providing information about hazardous materials for those employees working with such materials and will inform affected employees of potential hazards through training containing labels and safety data sheets. This program is established in accordance with OSHA guidelines. Safety data sheets are kept for each hazard materials on site. Know where the SDS book is kept. It must be available at all times. Assure yourself that you understand the warning labels or certain containers of hazardous material. Anytime you are required to perform non-routine tasks that may expose you to hazardous situations, supervisors must review procedures with you. Before using hazardous materials, examine the container label and review the safety data sheet to determine the limits of exposure, precautions to avoid exposure, physical hazards of the material, emergency and spill cleanup procedures, and recommended first aid in the event of an exposure. The following pictograms can help identify the hazards of materials: health hazards, carcinogens, mutagenicity, reproductive toxicity, respiratory synthesizers, target organ toxicity, aspiration toxicity. Flame, flammables, emits flammable gas, pyrophorics, self-heating, self-reactives, organic peroxides. Exclamation mark, irritant, skin and eye, skin synthesizer, acute toxicity, narcotic effects, respiratory tract irritant, hazardous to ozone layer, non-mandatory. Gas cylinder, gas under pressure. Corrosion, skin corrosion, burns. Eye damage, corrosive to metals. Exploding bomb, explosives. Self-reactives, organic peroxides. Flame over circle, oxidizers. Environmental, aquatic toxicity. Skull and crossbones, acute toxicity, fatal or toxic. Never store any oxidant or corrosive near each other to avoid fire and/or explosion. Do not smoke or have open flames around containers, which clearly indicate a flammable substance. Ensure proper ventilation before using substances that can have inhalation warning. If necessary, use personal protective devices as indicated by the safety data sheet. Do not use substances for unmarked containers. Do not remove, deface, or alter container labels. Ensure that secondary containers are clearly labeled as to contents. Return contents to original container at the end of work period. Do not use containers such as soda bottles for a secondary container. Do not mix substances or chemicals due to dangerous chemical reactions that can be produced. Safety data sheet precautions apply to all individuals who may be in an exposure area. Any spill of hazardous materials must be reported to your supervisor and the safety department immediately. Speak with your supervisor if you have any questions.
Blasting operations are inherently dangerous. As a result, only certified blasters will be permitted to perform blasting activities on our projects. In addition, no blasting shall be done until a pre-blast survey of nearby homes or buildings have been completed. Seismic monitoring may also be required.
Each employee must wear the appropriate personal protective equipment in all operations where there is exposure to hazardous conditions or where there is an indication of the need for using such equipment to reduce the hazard to employees. Employees must check with their supervisor regarding any part of their job and the PPE required if they do not understand. Hard hats in good condition and worn properly are required at all times in construction work areas. Hard hats must be worn with the bill over the forehead with all suspension devices intact. Safety glasses with the side shields are required at all times on all jobs. Unless performing activities like welding, cutting, brazing, or other tasks requiring specific eye protection, dark safety glasses are strictly prohibited in all areas of the project that are under roof. All employees are encouraged to wear gloves at all times when on a branch group project, and hand protection is required at any time that such protection would reasonably prevent injury caused by the task at hand. The appropriate impervious gloves must be worn when handling or working around caustics, acids, or other corrosive chemicals, including concrete, asphalt, and mastic. Safety toe work boots are required on most branch group projects. If safety toe boots are not required on your project, leather work boots must be worn. Tennis shoes or sneakers are not permitted. Full-length trousers and shirts with sleeves are required. Excessively loose, baggy, or torn clothing that could become caught in machinery or otherwise cause or contribute to an incident shall not be worn on the job site. Rings or jewelry that could be caught in machinery or on ladders, etc., are prohibited. As a rule, if noise in your work environment requires you to raise your voice to be understood, hearing protection should be used. Welding helmets and safety glasses are to be used during any welding operation. Cutting goggles, not sunglasses, must be worn for all torch work. Class 3 safety vests must be worn by employees exposed to vehicular traffic or when required by supervision. The use of safety harnesses and lifelines is required when working on elevated work 6 feet above the lower level, where there is no guardrail protection. Safety glasses and a face shield must be used at all times when grinding, cutting, using spark-creating tools or pneumatic tools. You are expected to utilize appropriate judgment in your selection and use of personal protective equipment.
All employees will use 100% fall protection when they are walking or working at or over 6 feet above the next lower level and when appropriate guardrails are not in place. Examples of such areas include, but are not limited to, edges of excavation, walls, roofs, manholes, holes in floors, etc. Monitors are not to be used as the only means of fall protection. Monitor in roofing, not allowed. Lifelines, safety harnesses, or lanyards subjected to in-service loading shall be immediately removed from service and given to the safety department. Lifelines shall be secured above the worker to an anchorage or structure member capable of supporting minimum dead weight of 5,400 pounds. All safety harnesses, lifelines, and lanyard hardware shall meet or exceed OSHA standards and be inspected prior to each use. While ladders are required tools on many jobs, they are a source of countless injuries in the construction industry each year. General safety precautions to follow while using ladders include: inspect ladders before each use. Ladders with broken or missing rungs, split side rails, or other defects shall not be used and must be removed from service. Ladders are not to be painted except for inspection, color coding, numbering, or identification purposes. Never subject a ladder to loads greater than its designed load limit. Ladders are not to be used to support scaffold boards, as workbenches, or for any other purpose than their intended purpose. Metal ladders are prohibited. Only one person on a ladder at a time. Always face ladder when ascending, descending, or working. Proper fall protection must be used if working from a ladder at a height greater than 6 feet if working near a leading edge. Use hand lines to carry tools and materials whenever possible. Job-made ladders must meet OSHA specifications. Ladders shall be placed on a substantial base, and the area around the top and bottom of the ladder must be kept clear. Secure all ladders before beginning work to prevent them from falling or sliding. The foot of the ladder should be placed approximately 1/4 of its length away from the vertical plane of its top support. When exiting from the top, the ladder must extend 3 feet above its supporting point. The length of at least 3 rungs must overlap extension ladders. Do not stand on the top or the top step of a step ladder. Open ladder completely, locking braces. All 4 feet should rest on a sound level surface.
While scaffolds can provide a stable work platform, those installed improperly can be deadly. The following guidelines must be followed when using scaffolding on a branch group project. An OSHA-defined competent person must inspect and sign off on the scaffold's integrity before each work shift. Red or green tags must be used. Scaffolds shall be erected on sound, rigid footing and shall be plumb and level. Unstable objects such as loose brick, concrete blocks, boxes, barrels, etc. shall not be used to support scaffold frames or planks. Screw jacks shall not be extended over 12 inches on regular scaffolds and shall not be used on mobile scaffolds. Any scaffold at or above 6 feet in height must have complete top and mid rails all around, or fall protection must be used. Toe boards will be used for falling object protection. The platform must be fully planked. Scaffold planks must extend over their support not less than 6 inches and not more than 12 inches unless otherwise secured. Planks must not show signs of splitting. Ladder and or stair access must be provided. Do not move rolling scaffolds while occupied. Lock all wheel on mobile scaffolds prior to use. Mobile and tower scaffolds work level shall not exceed 4 times the minimum base dimensions unless suitable outriggers are provided. Tube and coupled scaffolds must be secured every 30 feet horizontally and 26 feet vertically. Rigging and hoisting operations routinely take place on construction sites. While employees often don't think of their activities as rigging and hoisting operations, each time an item is lifted mechanically with a sling of any type, a rigging operation has taken place. Rigging operations must be planned, supervised, and conducted by properly trained and authorized personnel. Employees must be properly trained and authorized prior to conducting any crane, rigging, or rigging activities. Never use rigging or hoisting equipment beyond its rated capacity. Never stand below a suspended load. Never leave a suspended load unattended. Use softeners to protect slings from sharp edges and corners. Do not support lifting equipment from structural piping without approval. Tag lines shall be used to control the load. Determine the weight of the load before attempting to make the lift. Before use, visually examine all lifting equipment and including slings, chains, hooks, etc. Damaged or defective equipment must be removed from service. Never use damaged or kinked slings or hoist ropes. Never unhook a load until it is safely landed and properly secured. Keep hands and feet away from pinch points. All hooks must have a safety latch. Avoid dragging slings from beneath loads.
Elevated work platforms, such as scissor lifts and boom lifts, are invaluable to a construction site, but they must be respected as construction equipment. For this reason, the following guidelines will be enforced on branch group projects. The operator must remain alert and not operate equipment if mentally or physically impaired. Consult your supervisor if taking either over-the-counter or prescription medication. Survey the work areas for hazard and erect barricades as necessary. Operate only the equipment for which you have been trained. You must read and be familiar with the manual for your equipment and operate it as intended by the manufacturer. Never operate equipment that is unsafe or in need of repair. The operator must perform and document a pre-shift inspection daily. Notify supervision of any significant incidents, property damage, or near misses with regards to the equipment. Personnel working around aerial lift equipment must keep a safe distance from operating equipment and remain alert and respond as necessary when an equipment backup warning device is heard. Never walk or work below a raised platform on equipment. Articulating boom platforms are not to be used as cranes. Lifting materials or equipment with baskets or booms is prohibited. Always be sure that there is sufficient clearance before moving under any overhead obstruction and working near electrical lines. Do not stand on platform handrails. Always stand on a platform floor. Safety harnesses must be worn and tied off inside the platform.
Industrial fires are regularly seen on the news and are often started by a single spark from a torch or welding operation. For this reason, the following rules must be followed on branch projects. No cutting, welding, or hot work shall take place in permit-required areas without authorization by a supervisor or designated personnel responsible for such operations and the completion of a hot work permit. Hot work permit required areas include, but are not limited to, flammable liquid storage areas, flammable gas storage areas, welding or cutting used drums, barrels, or tanks. Fire watchers are required whenever welding, cutting, or hot work is performed in locations where a hot work permit has been issued. The hot work permit can be found in Safety Policies and Procedure Manual.
Reverse signal operation safety. Backing equipment can be dangerous and leads to numerous deaths and injuries in the construction industry each year. As a result, the following reverse signal operation requirements will be followed on all branch projects and applies to all construction vehicles or equipment capable of operating in reverse with an obstructed rear view. An obstructed rear view is anything that interferes with the driver's view to the rear of the vehicle at ground level and includes structural members of the vehicle, its load, its height relative to the ground level viewing, damage to the windows or side mirrors, used for rear view movement, restricted visibility due to weather conditions, or work being done after dark without proper lighting. Do not back up any obstructed view vehicle unless it has a backup alarm audible above the surrounding noise level, and it is backed up only when a ground guide signals that it is safe to do so. Or before backing up, the driver looks to see that no employee is in the path of the vehicle. If no employees are in the path of the vehicle, a ground guide is not required. If the backup alarm stops working properly and an immediate fix is not possible that day, the vehicle shall be backed up using ground guide signals or taken out of service until the alarm is repaired. Vehicles with operable video or similar technological capability providing the driver with a full view behind the vehicle are exempt from the requirement to use a ground guide. What are the responsibilities of the ground guides? Ground guides shall not do any activities other than those related to the vehicle being signaled. Use personal cell phones, headphones, etc. that could cause a distraction. Walk close behind a vehicle that is backing up. Ground guides shall be trained in the safety rules in this regulation. Always stay where the vehicle driver can see you while he is backing up. Stay a safe working distance from the vehicle. Be provided with and wear during the day a safety vest jacket in orange, yellow, strong yellow-green, or fluorescent versions of these colors. Be provided with and wear at night a safety vest jacket with retro-reflective material in orange, yellow, white, silver, strong yellow-green, or a fluorescent version of these colors visible at a minimum distance of 1,000 feet. What do drivers and operators need to know? Drivers, operators shall be trained in the safety rules of this regulation and not back up a vehicle unless they keep constant line of sight of the ground guide. If the driver loses sight of the ground guide, they shall immediately stop the vehicle until sight of the ground guide is regained and a signal is received from the ground guide to restart the backup operations. As a rule, no one is to walk close behind a vehicle that is backing up. Refresher training shall be provided for any driver or ground guide when they have violated the regulation, been involved in a reverse signal accident or near miss, or received an evaluation indicating that they have not been operating under this regulation in a safe manner.
Crystalline silica is a common mineral found in construction materials such as sand, stone, concrete, brick, and mortar. When workers cut, grind, drill, or crush these materials, small dust particles are created that in certain concentrations can be hazardous to health. As a result, the company has written a silica plan, and the following rules apply. All activities that create silica dust must be performed in accordance with Table 1 of the OSHA Silica Standard. Dry sweeping in areas that contain silica dust is not permitted. Use of compressed air for cleaning is not permitted. Activities that cannot take place in accordance with Table 1 of the OSHA Silica Standard must be evaluated and approved by the Safety Department prior to engaging in the activity. All subcontractors must have a silica plan before performing activities that may produce silica dust. Please contact a safety representative for a copy of the full silica exposure control plan or with additional questions.
From time to time, the company performs work in mines. Only properly trained employees who have been approved by the Safety Department are permitted to work in mines. Please contact a safety representative for questions.
While in a perfect world, it would not be necessary, unfortunately, discipline must be used from time to time to enforce safety rules. Failure by an employee to observe the safety requirements will result in the following actions. 1. The first incident will require a verbal or a written warning issued to the employee with a copy of the employee's personal file. 2. A second incident within 1 year requires a written warning issued to the employee with a copy to the employee's personal file and 1 day off without pay. 3. A third incident within 1 year of the second requires a written warning issued to the employee with a copy to the employee's personal file and 5 days off without pay. 4. A fourth incident within 1 year of the third will result in termination. Please note that a number of factors influence employment decisions, and the company reserves the right, in accordance with the at-will employment status of every employee, to take appropriate disciplinary action up to termination of employment without following the progressive disciplinary guidelines.
This concludes the Branch Group Safety Orientation video. Your supervisor and a local safety representative are available to answer any questions you may have prior to beginning work. Please remember, no training can anticipate all possible hazards, so each worker must be responsible for proper planning, constant awareness, and a concern for their coworkers.